first episode, and who better than Benjamin Notini, one of my good longtime friends. Started back in Legal Shield, network marketing, and we've just grown a lot ever since then. We're both young and starting out our entrepreneur journeys. So, it's a great guest to come out with. Leader, that's one word for sure. He was top associate in that company and went on to start building different companies and in the crypto trading, financial stuff like that.
Yeah.
And great speaker. Has definitely helped a lot of millennials and got them started on their own journeys as well. So I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on. This is actually my first podcast too. So I think it works out pretty well. Obviously when you reached out and I was happy to be in town, and like you said, we've been friends for a pretty long time. We've known each other since, obviously, like you said, Legal Shield, and I feel like that was a very long. It wasn't that long ago, but 2016 to 19 type time frame.
Yeah, actually, I was pulling up a picture on Instagram.
Was it in Charlotte? Where was this?
It was it says.
Oh, this is probably in Raleigh. Yeah. Wow. Oh man, that's
super
funny.
Old, right?
Dude, it's super old. And it's with my this is like my ex girlfriend.
Yeah. It was long ago.
Yeah, man.
It looks funny, right?
Yeah, man.
You're looking at yourself back then. It's you look so funny.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Super. But yeah, it says great moments, great people, being around like-minded people, and just loving life together makes your level of belief and appreciation skyrocket you into success. So,
what's the date on that?
April 22nd, 2017.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's 8 years pretty much. But yeah, that's one reason why I wanted to start the podcast is because I think we're all like-minded. We're all trying to make our dreams come true and stuff like that. So it's more about connecting with people, and that's pretty much what life is about. And
I like it, man. Even in this caption there, you use the term like-minded.
Exactly.
So that's the name of the podcast there. So yeah, like-minded, collective conscience. We're all, there's definitely a certain frequency that's being tapped into by a lot more people. There's some people call it a great awakening type situation, but I think more outlets where people are sharing positive content and information, and kind of putting people onto higher ways of thinking, is ultimately a good thing. So I'm excited to see what you end up doing with this, man. Something that you take serious. Obviously, this is your first episode that we're recording now. Obviously you probably have a big plan in store, but depending upon how serious you take this is how far you'll take it. And if you're sharing a good message, you got good people, and then of course you got to have the marketing side of things too. But if you have ultimately a good message and what you're pushing out there, it's successful.
I appreciate that, bro. Really. But yeah, I had some questions I wanted to ask you. Definitely prepared these for a while, and one of them is, how old were you when you started questioning things like money, success, God, your future, things like that?
I think I started to really question things about finances and really just the system and the world that we lived in probably around when I was 16, going into my junior year of high school. I had a pretty big life event take place where I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, or a little north of Boston. And I lived in the same house my entire life. It's the type of town where everyone's grandparents are from, so it's just like a really tight-knit community. It's like the people, my parents' best friends from high school live in the town. So it's like my parents had a lot of really close friends. And obviously we were, I had a lot of, I had people who were like cousins to me that weren't even, blood related. It was just like we've known each other our whole lives. And my junior year of high school, we ended up moving to Colorado Springs, which is on the completely other side of the country. And that was, it was due to a lot of things, but ultimately we ended up leaving that area because of financial difficulties, which was something my family had never experienced up to that point. And I've been kind of, I don't know, I'm very, very privileged for sure, like with my upbringing from my parents, until that time frame, is when I really started to experience something. My dad, he comes from a big family. His dad was a very successful businessman, but my dad's the baby of 11, and so there's So, anyways, what I'm saying is there was a lot that I had a very good environment.
Yeah.
I think
family oriented.
Absolutely. Well, your belief system is made up of like what they call the 3 E's. You've probably heard this before. But your environment, your education, your experiences, right? And so my environment growing up, all of my uncles owned businesses, and all my uncles were pretty wealthy guys. And it was just kind of something that I kind of saw that, people who have money, they own companies, they own businesses. But I didn't really start to think about all of that until my family moved. And I started to, a lot of things happened. And then at the beginning of my senior year, I moved to North Carolina. And ultimately, I started really questioning the whole system of life, man. But more or less the whole system we're in. One thing I started questioning the school system, really early, back when I was still in high school, because I saw a lot of people, my siblings' friends, for example, right, and just people that I'd known a long time, come out of college with a 4-year bachelor degree, and they were working the same jobs they were working the whole time they were in college, and then all they had was massive student loan debt. And I heard their complaints and the things they were saying, and then I started getting, I guess, exposed to information, and I started getting introduced to resources that really showed me how not solid of a plan college was, when my whole life it was like college is the thing that you have to do if you want to become successful. And it was just kind of, I was like, man, if this is, because for most people, don't get me wrong, I have siblings who are like doctors, attorneys, engineers. So
they're all about college, right?
Yeah, they're all about college for sure.
Yes.
And it's like, but it's good because their path and the way they took advantage of the school system made sense, and they got careers that paid well. And I have 3 siblings who are doctors.
They did it right. Yeah,
they did it right, but the vast majority of people aren't doing it right.
Yeah.
And so they come out of the system, 40, 50, 60, 100, $150,000 in student loan debt, and they working the exact same jobs, and they don't really have any qualifications to do anything, that's going to pay them a higher wage, or make them more money. So that was a really big thing for me, even just because I was like, man, the facts and the numbers are that most people just aren't getting, high paying jobs coming out of college. They're not getting like even jobs in their field.
Momentum, I guess, in school, because like once you're doing good in school, you just keep going, and then at the end you're just like, oh, like I have all this debt, but now I have the chance to be a lawyer, be a doctor, stuff like that. Really, I feel like a lot of people that have massive debt in college, they don't even think about it.
No, it's true. They don't, man. They don't, and they're not aware of what's really happening, because it's almost they've just been I don't want to say brainwashed, but just conditioned to believe that this is normal. And then one thing that I realized, a lot of people find that, early on when they're going through college, they find a lot of identity inside of their college and their grade and their what they're studying, because it's like it's a part of them.
It's like thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously what they're focused on. But when I was in college age, I wasn't going to college. I was, an entrepreneur of sorts, right? Building, residual income and building leverage businesses. And, I started my first LLC at 19. And so I definitely was more, I was doing something a little bit different. And what I recognized and noticed is that everybody my age who I got introduced to, one thing that people always ask, right? I think it was like, oh, where do you go to school? Especially in North Carolina, where it's like there's a lot of colleges there. So many right there. And it's almost like that's how people identify. Like there's a big identification. It's like, oh, where do you go to school? You UNC, NC State, Duke, like all these things are, it's a big difference. And then it's like, what are you studying? And I people like kind of high. What I'm getting at is one thing I recognize is people don't really know who they are or what they're doing in life. But when they're in college, they have something to like hide behind to like be like, well, I don't really know what's going on. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, dude, I'm in college and I'm studying for this. It's like, but ultimately, it's like, what's that going to lead to? So for some people, it does lead to things. They're going to get real careers. But there's a lot of people out there with pointless,
yeah, I mean, we know because in network marketing, especially at our age, like those were the people that we were like basically talking to about the opportunity because.
Absolutely, man. Network marketing is a huge proponent of self-education. It really makes people think more, which is always good. But I mean, I give a lot of credit to network marketing because the thing that I got the most value from there was the people I got access to. There's not a lot of places where you can get access to people who are making millions of dollars, who are going to give you good information and mentor you and teach you because you're working with them in some capacity, and you can go to events and seminars and they'll put you on the books and
That was actually one of the questions. Well, one, if you had entrepreneurs in your life before college, definitely answer that with your family and family, friends, I'm sure. But one thing, especially with like being in that family oriented, I'm sure you like gained a lot of principles as well as with network marketing. And what are some principles right now that you live by? And who are some of those people that you got that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a really good question. I would say the biggest principle I live my life by is it's not what happens to you that determines your life future, but it's what you do about what happens that defines you as an individual. I mean, that is like something that for me, I learned that from Jim Rohn. Obviously, he's an incredible thought leader when it comes to life and business philosophy. And that life philosophy was something that has been a corner, like it was one of the biggest game changers for my life, because inside of one of his audio tapes where he talks about this, he was talking about how bad things happen to everybody, and it's there's a lot of people, they have bad things happen to them, and they make this idea that they're a victim. And a victim mentality, whatever you focus on, whatever you're, allowing or you're giving energy and space to, is what's going to show up and appear for you over and over. So if you're always thinking that you're a victim, chances are you're going to continuously find ways that you're being victimized, or, you're going to attract things into your life that you're not necessarily wanting, right? But it's like people like to have this victim mentality. They like to feel like things are out of their control. But the more you act like things are out of your control, or you have that victim mentality, the more things are actually out of your control. And so
you give your power away, basically, right?
Yeah, you give your power away, man. That's a big one too. I mean, I don't know what the principle for it is, but I always take responsibility when I mess up. And that's helped me out a lot with so many high level individuals, because nobody's perfect. Nobody gets it right 100% of the time. But when you genuinely make a mistake and you own it and you say, hey, that was my mistake. That was something I messed up. I'm going to do what I need to do to make that right or rectify it. I think that's something that is very rare, and it's something people really admire. And then also not just saying you're going to do something about the mistake, but actually fixing the mistake, right? Like actually moving forward and doing what you have to do to right the wrong. So those are definitely two principles. That's a great question, taking 100% responsibility for your actions, one thing I like is obviously, one of the classic Kevin Trudeau, basics. It's, who do you listen to? The the number one basic, right? Who do you listen to is just something I really take that to heart as well. And what that means essentially is like, who do you, when someone's giving you advice, like, are they qualified to give you that advice, right? If somebody's giving you relationship advice and they've been divorced, 3-4 times, is that person really qualified to give you an example? If someone's talking to you about your financial future, but that person's broke, are they really qualified to give you this information or give you that guidance? And so that's a big one. I think there's so many. I could sit here and continue to think of more and more and more.
I mean, Kevin Trudeau is one of my people that I listen to, obviously, like, but it's funny how we both got upon that information. Like, you got that from, was it JP? Or like, who got you into
I
that?
think who was the first person?
I mean, Lucas got me into it. We were doing Legal Shield, and then
I think the first time I heard of it was in Vima. I mean, it might have been JP, Justin Peterson, potentially.
Because when he started, taking off in like the company, I was listening to him. I was like, this guy, like, I was already listening to KT, so I was like, this guy knows something, like,
Yeah.
And then so when we went to the Millennium Movement event, that's when we hung out, and then I confirmed it like with him and I forgot the other guy. Nick, yeah. Nick Owen, yeah. So
Justin and Nick were real ones, bro.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you find real ones along the way. Even though you probably do different things, like they're still like-minded friends.
For sure, like-minded for sure. I mean, definitely. Nick actually put me onto so much good personal development. There was few people who would read as much as he read, and he was pretty. He had an interesting way of being. He was very hard to get along with for some people. But he was very he was a very intelligent guy. Very intelligent guy. He's one of my good friends for a while, especially when we were building. I think he's super smart.
He's a super low key guy, right?
Super low key. Kind of like a gamer nerd. Like, he's super good at certain games that you just like a lot of people haven't even heard of. I mean, it's impressive. He's talented for sure. Actually, I say that though. They're the games. That's just me, right? Like, I don't know about League of Legends and all this type of
the open world fantasy. I never got into those games.
Yeah, I'm not into it.
No, but Madden guy.
Yeah, but no, there was few people who read as much as Nick, man. That guy actually really was a big personal development guy, and JP was pretty incredible as well. He had like a really big vision for what he wanted to do and what he wanted to create, and I mean, he did create something pretty special in the moment and what it was.
I mean, you created some leaders as well. One of the other guy, I forgot his name as well, but you got into like the trading stuff like that.
Oh, is that Kyle?
I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some things work out, some things.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was. I got a lot of respect for all the people that I worked with in that world, but no, Kyle was an interesting relationship, but he was a hardworking guy. He was really smart. I think I don't know. It's hard to really classify it, because there was definitely, that was somebody who kind of like, I don't want to say he betrayed me, but it's kind of like, man, I really opened up a world for this guy, and I worked really hard to help him, succeed. Obviously he did a lot on his own, but you don't understand the business we're in. Like, when someone's giving you 24/7 of their time and energy.
I guess it's kind of like probably the way you met him, though.
Yeah, the way I met him is crazy too. All that, the whole story is actually wild, and is insane to even think about how that all came together. But he was just one of those people that I met him in an airport. I talked to him, told him, I was just on a spree, man. I used to be I would recruit anybody and everybody. You know, I was a network marketing like just savage. Like I mean, when I was really, man, and I just don't have it. I don't have it in me like that. You know, I actually am building something in the direct sales space. But I'm working more on like a corporate side of things, you know, and it's not even a corporate because it's, you know, cryptocurrency project. So it's more of like a contributor, you know, terminology. You know, it's like, you know, Web3 projects.
So, speaking of that, with the cryptos, what you're at now, like, what are some differences, what are some differences from Americans and people in the Eastern Hemisphere, like Dubai, Europe, Asia, when it comes to business, like sales wise, like starting a project business venture? Because I mean, you know, you've dealt with, you know, obviously recruiting people here, and then you've also tried to like get a lot of people, even in Miami, where it's like a lot of crypto, you know, based. Like, I feel like people still here are like maybe more skeptical, or like maybe just the whole aspect. I feel like people like over where you in like Dubai, Asia, Europe, they're more open to, you know.
You know, it's really just about the right communities and groups of people, because there's a lot of places, you know, on the Western Hemisphere, on really the whole, you know, Eastern Hemisphere, Western Hemisphere, all over the world. There's a lot of ignorance still to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and digital currencies, and really Web3 as a whole. You know, Web3 encompasses a lot of different things, more so than just crypto. You know, like metaverse, NFTs, decentralized finance, you know, and much more. You know, there's still so much ignorance to it. So, I mean, obviously, I think Bitcoin is actually today, it looks like it's about to hit a new all-time high.
For real? Wow.
Past 74,000. So, I mean, crypto is obviously doing well on an overall, like, you know, things are moving up right now. There's that, 72,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going crazy right now. So, it looks like it could definitely, it should break a new all-time high this week.
Crazy. Of all these lines and stuff, but
yeah, no, I see it. No, so it's but it's just being around the right groups of people, and you know, I do think what's really interesting is how different direct sales is from the U.S. and really from Asia to different countries. Man, it's really interesting. There's a very big cultural difference, and the one thing is about the States is there's just so much regulation, that a lot of companies now, they don't even want to try to operate here. You know, they're just like, no, just block the IP address in the U.S. and you know, operate outside of the U.S. and you know, they do just fine. I think people in the States, you know, they get VPNs and work their way around it and all that stuff. But there's a lot of projects that don't even you know, you're just better off kind of steering clear, banning the IP addresses in the U.S. and operating as you know, an international project.
Yeah,
you just have a lot less problems in the other parts of the world.
yeah, I've seen that with trading as well, like on the trading apps, like blocking a lot of the prop firms and stuff like that. Crypto as well. But yeah, I guess regulation, because there are a lot of like scams or people complain when they lose money.
You know, I think some regulation is good. You know, don't get me wrong. You know, you can't just. I think one of the bigger flaws of the crypto space is how there's a lot of people taking advantage of people in the crypto space. People who understand what's going on, and then taking advantage of people who are trying to find out what's going on. You know, and that's never great, you know. So some type of structure and assistance, that is, I think, a good thing. You know, I know everybody. So I mean, but yeah, it's you know, when you're overstepping the regulation and you know, you're trying to monitor everything, and ultimately, you know, any government, you know, I think every government's just trying to figure out how they can make as much money from what's about to happen as they possibly can at this point, right? So,
for sure.
Even the other day, Trump was talking about. I don't know if you saw this, man, but he was talking about, you know, if he wins, he wants a lot of the mining for Bitcoin to start happening in the U.S.
Oh wow!
And that he wants, and then he's going to try all the all the Bitcoin that the U.S. is currently holding, he's going to try to keep it. And they're holding a lot.
I literally just voted today, right down the street. So I'm pretty excited about like the new election. See what's gonna happen. You know, I'm just excited to see what's gonna happen. You know, like,
Yeah, no, I am as well, man. I am as well. You know, it's funny. You know, I think just freely speaking, I do think Kamala Harris is the worst candidate for president I've ever seen. You know, like, and I'm not.
I just see it and like I can't even like comprehend like how someone like that is, you know, being a president. But then other people just hate.
Yeah, no one thinks she's a good candidate, man. It's like, obviously, but there are people who really hate Donald Trump, and you know, I kind of sympathize with these people. I used to think these people were just idiots, you know, but I do sympathize with these people, especially because some of my siblings are these people. You know, they just some of my sisters, they just hate everything about Donald Trump. And what I realize is they're just a product of like a system that's been designed to brainwash people into hating Donald Trump in every aspect they possibly can. And, you know, but here's the other thing. Here's the other side of the coin. I try not to be like too overzealous, and like, you know, way on the too much on the other side, just because I reject what's happening on the left so much. I try not to swing all the way right. I try to kind of remind myself, like, okay, I do think Trump is a better candidate. I'm hoping that he wins the election, but I'm also not going to say I don't think there's any flaws that he has, right? Like, I don't think he's the perfect candidate. I don't think he's, you know, I think he's and I don't, you know, don't get me wrong. I think he's an amazing candidate, and I think he's the right person for the job right now. But I always like to keep a reminder where it's like, you know, I don't want to be completely just backing anything and everything one person says. I can obviously be for this person, but I don't want to be too, because I see a lot of people just get so crazy about politics, where they hate the other side so much that they're just playing a part of that division. And I want to try to keep myself just a little bit out of that, where I'm like, okay, even though I reject what's happening over there, I do support this person. I don't want to just be completely sold out and be in alignment with everything and anything they say, because they might say something I still don't agree with. And I want to keep that in mind too, you know? But yeah, what's going on right now in the Democratic Party on the left, it's madness. It's madness, the things that are happening. The ideologies of the left are just something I can't accept. You know, there's certain things about it where I'm just I can't you know, pretend like those are real things.
I feel like most people that really hate Trump, they're making it personal. But also, I just think, like, I try to think a bit about like their side, you know, what they would feel, like what they're feeling, like why they would not want, you know, Donald Trump. I mean, maybe it's because they think, one, like the president doesn't control everything, so like he can't change everything, right? So why would, like, then if he can't change anything, is he gonna be like a dictator, whatever, stuff like that? And then also maybe they just want someone that they just don't want people to act like him. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why they're making it personal. They don't want people to act like that. They don't want people that are like bigots and like, I guess, cocky or, you know, stuff like that. They don't like cocky people. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes even when you walk into a building, like, it's just people like just hate you for no reason. It's like, dude, what did I do? Like, you know what I'm saying? And
dude, yeah, you know, I used to always say people either love me or they hate me. I was like, I don't understand why. And people are like, dude, it's because you just like, I guess I just have like one of those faces, you know? I'm just like,
they want to punch you or something.
Yeah,
like
man.
that.
People are like, you know, forget this guy. He thinks he's awesome, man. You know, at the end of the day, I do think I'm awesome. You know, I'm not like, but if I don't think I'm awesome, who else is going to think I'm awesome?
Exactly.
It's like, I think anybody who's actually awesome is probably like, yeah, you know, I'm awesome for sure. You got to like have a little bit of self-confidence, you know? But yeah, I try not to have too big of an ego, man. You know, it's tough. You know, it's tough. I obviously I'm a I'm just a 30-year-old male. I'm trying to, achieve the most I can possibly achieve. Of course, I want to feel good about myself, but I do want to have a tamed ego. I think I do have a tamed ego. I think I got a lot of it. I became very humbled through the last 10 years of my life. I've had a lot of ups. I've had a lot of downs. Obviously when we were in Legal Shield, man, I was kind of a big deal for a little bit. Like when I was like 20, 22, 23. And I say that, I was a big deal inside of a small ecosystem. This network.
All the oldies and like the fresh millennials.
Yeah.
Legal Shield was a funny company. They're like super old people and then, middle age. But
we brought in all the young people.
Yeah,
that's what it was. It was only older people. That's why what we did was pretty impressive. And there was so many young people from different organizations, and we just kind of opened up people's mind to recruiting millennials and bringing in a younger generation. And that's what it was. It was the millennial movement, man. We actually did that. That was pretty cool.
Because I got into it because there's like Bima, like different companies like that. Wake Up Now.
Were you in Bima?
No. My buddy Lucas recruited me to Wake Up Now, which is kind of like a Bima type of thing. I was there.
I never got into Wake Up Now, man. All I knew about Wake Up Now is they were recruiting a bunch of people out of Bima. I was like, dude, this company seems like a scam. But I didn't know anything about it. I was just I was just ready to be a hater because I was so on the other side. So
I like the idea of like financial freedom and doing that, but I don't know. I just happened to see. I was actually doing business to business, business to business, but like door to door, I guess. And then like direct sales, basically, just with businesses. And then I happened to find this one guy recruited me to Legal Shield. And I just thought it was more professional. I was like, man, this is like maybe like the real deal, not scammy at all. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, this can't be a scam. Like,
for sure, man.
So
you have a law firm in every county in every state, all connected in one plan. Oh, that was legit, man. And that's what interested me into it, man. I had been in two network marketing companies, direct sales companies before Legal Shield, and I was kind of over it. I was like, man, this, Vima was the first company I was in, and I really liked Vima. I liked their products. They had the worst luck, man, because they got a lawsuit from I think the FTC, or something like that, or the SEC, one of those scary government agencies. They ended up winning the lawsuit. But when they got the lawsuit, it ruined the whole brand of the company. So the whole thing went down. Everybody left.
They see that.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It was, bro, you're getting sued by the government, on a whole bunch of different things. And the guy who, the owner of the company, BK Barreco, I'm actually decent friends with him now. I kind of connected with him afterwards because of one of my mentors, Joshua Denny. He's good friends with BK, so I was able to hang out with BK a couple different times. I think he's a really cool guy. But he ended up winning the lawsuit, man, and the company's still around today, people. They're still a Vima formula. They're still, they just actually relaunched the Verve product, all that. So it's still around, cool. But obviously when that went down, I got recruited to a different company, and that's when I kind of saw the other side of the direct sales industry. It's more of people not just building one company their whole life and all these ideas that I thought was what it was, and then I saw a little bit more of the industry behind it and people going from different deals and all this other stuff.
Everybody with them.
And so I wasn't attracted to that. So when I saw Legal Shield as the third project in the direct sales space that I saw, I wasn't open to doing it at the time. But then when I saw it, I was like, dang, all right, I actually kind of want to do this.
Legit, yeah.
Yeah, it's legit.
CEO Jeff Bell. This guy is like the president of
Yeah, he was like the president. Man, they really had me there, man. I was drinking the juice for sure. I was not just drinking the juice. I was like a cult leader. I was in it. But you know what? It's a good culture, right, to be a part of, personal development, becoming a better version of yourself. But it's just funny, man. I look at some of the people I work with now and people I hang around with now. It's like, I remember that, $100,000 a year was a really big deal. And it's like, dude, that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal at all. It's not a lot of money. I mean, I'm hanging out, a lot of people in my network, and it's not about, it's just really interesting, you know, the mindset, right? But we were around so many amazing people, but then when you really thought about it, like, man, you know, well, I guess at that point in time, it was a good introduction. But yeah, they were $100,000 being a year is like, man, it's not going to cut it. Like,
That was their like. I mean, they had a lot. They had some people over that, but like majority of like the successful people were like under big.
yeah, once you were a 100K earner, you were like a big deal.
But it was pretty like solid. Like that 100K a year was. I feel like they're holding that longer than other people that say I'm 100K.
For sure. But honestly, what it is, it's like there's a whole other level of like
it's like a
operating
stable network marketing.
Yeah, stable networking. But I'm thinking, yeah, man. I guess I'm thinking about things that aren't even related to network marketing. I'm like, man, you can make so much more money in life than $100,000 a year. Like if you,
buying companies.
yeah, free man. If you just get into, it really is like your network is your net worth, and like connecting with people and understanding what's going on. I closed. I helped raise some money for a project. Right, this Web3 company was looking for capital. I raised a significant amount of capital for them, and I got paid. I actually, because I was very much in the deal, I got paid a 20% commission for the money I raised, and it was that one. And this, when I tell you the length of this whole thing took like a couple of days. I made more money in all 3 years I made in Legal Shield in like one deal.
That's crazy.
And I was like, but it's all not circumstantial, but being connected with the people who have the deal, have the capital, or are looking for the capital and have the opportunity, and then also knowing the people who have that same kind of capital.
So you build up to that level of
surrounding yourself with the right people, man, and that's what I've always, that's just one way to being a connector is just really, really, really powerful. If you're really good at connecting people, and you're good at getting in the middle of connecting powerful people, that's a big deal. You got to make sure you don't get cut out, because that's when things start getting real. That's where people start getting cut out. But it's like you gotta, if you can learn how to connect to good people, like good deals, that's what sweet.
Gotta be the plug. But when it comes to success, how important is a mentor, and then like the different forms of mentorship along the way, like people like you listen to, like with KT, and I read books from like Jim Rohn, and then like having a personal mentor, because I know you have like like with Denny, that's kind of like a personal mentor. I've seen on Instagram, you guys been working together for a while, so what are, I guess you could say, some similarities and differences?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I would say surrounding myself with people who are way better than I am at the things I'm trying to learn, who have significantly more experience. I've done that for the last 12 years of my life. I've sought mentorship. I've gotten around people, and it's made the biggest difference. It's made the biggest difference in my life, because even just hanging out with Josh, when Josh and I first became connected and we became friends, he's a very high level guy, but he was at a point where he was just getting out of it. He had gotten out of a divorce like a couple years prior. He was going through he was just getting out of like a really tough time frame in his life. But he was already a very high level person, like the type of person where it's like, you got to make your living expenses are 40 to 50 grand a month. Like you're just expenses to live, like the life that you live. And that's not even that crazy.
Yeah.
But but it actually, for the average person to think where it's like, man, you're telling me that your expenses and all of your bills and all the things that you're doing is $45,000 a month, that type of price range or that type of frame. That's like a different way of thinking, because even, my dad was, in my opinion, a really successful guy. It still is, really smart guy. He's, does amazing things. But we had I have a big family, but it's like, man, to think we were not spending, $40,000-$50,000 a month on our life.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that that's the only way to measure, but the reason I say that is because when you get around people who that's like their minimum, it really helps you expand your own way of thinking as well of what's possible or what's really money. Hanging around Josh he's one of my best friends at this point. But he helped me really understand, like, dude, like the money that I used to think was big money. It's like, look, this is nothing.
Yes.
This is not big money. Like,
expanded your mind basically. And once you got that, you were like, okay.
Yeah, well, your mind's like underwear. Once it expands, it can't go back.
Yep. That's awesome, man. What are like some principles, I guess, like that he's taught you, like some things that you've like changed, or I guess like realized?
One thing, Josh has been a great mentor in a lot of ways, but he's one of those guys that has really taught me accountability. And taking responsibility for the things that you mess up or the things that don't go the way you want them to go. Because in business and in life, that's always going to happen. But the guy who makes a mistake or doesn't things don't play out exactly how you thought they would play out. The person who takes responsibility for that and takes accountability and rights the wrongs of the actions of themselves, or even sometimes not even yourself who did something wrong, but maybe this is why maybe you vouch for somebody and somebody completely takes advantage of another person. It's like, man, you told me this guy was good. You told me this guy could get this up. There's things like that where this is why I'm super careful with like who I recommend to for things and all of that nature. But yeah, just accountability, man, and not being that's the biggest thing is accountability. And in all areas of your life. I think that's lacking a lot for most people. And when I think about Josh, that's when I think about him as a person, he makes me want to be more accountable. Even just like he's not around, right? When I think of Josh, I'm like, or not accountable. Like I want to be more disciplined. That's the really, I think, the word as well. Accountable,
Like a coach.
Disciplined. Yeah, I mean, he's a coach, man. Like for sure, he's a business and a life mentor and a best friend. For sure.
And it's someone that you looked up to, so you wanted to make them proud, or like make them know that you can be in a circle. You know what I'm saying? Like that you can fit in. Basically.
Absolutely.
I guess you did do that, and
yeah. Well, the biggest thing I did, I my whole life I've done this, man. But I find a way to bring value to people.
Exactly. Yeah.
I find a way to be valuable to people, and then I bring more value to them than I take, and eventually they want to have me around. And when you're really working. When you're bringing value to somebody and like what they're doing, man, they're always going to want you around, right? And now it's that's served me in a big way. I used to do a lot of things for free that other people would be like, man, why would you ever do that? But I have the most incredible network of people, and it's because I was I was of service to really well-connected, really influential people. And I would do things for them for free that other people like would, obviously demand to get paid for. And I had a lot of people always saying like, man, like you're doing all that for, but the long-term compensation of expanding my network and the people I really connected with, like Josh has been somebody who's introduced me to a whole new universe of humans.
Yeah.
Of a way higher caliber of human. And then it's like, when I think about the relationships that I've made through those relationships, it's like, it's when you have somebody who's really well respected and has an incredible reputation, they're going around vouching for you. They're on stages talking about how qualified you are as a person. I mean, what that's done for me long term is incredible. And I'm even now, man. I'm out in Dubai currently. This is where I live. I'm just back here in Miami. I was just visiting my daughter for the weekend. I'm about to fly back out, in a couple of days. And even out there, man, I do the same thing. There's a lot of people I've been able to get access to that people are kind of like curious how I'm working with these people and how I know these people. And it's like, man, I just found a way to bring incredible value to them, and bring more than I take.
That reminds me of like a quote Aristotle Onassis. He said, if I was ever, broke, the first thing I would do is go hang around the successful, the billionaires, stuff like that. And I'm sure he would do anything for free to be around them. You know what I'm saying? So that's a definitely good principle to live by. I wanted to ask as well, being able to like rally people, or actually, before we get to that, like to be a great leader, you obviously have to be a good follower, right? Like you said, So, what is a mindset of a good follower?
It comes down to the basics of KT, man. It's like, one, who do you listen to, right? Because if you're taking advice from somebody and you're following somebody, you're allowing somebody to lead you, it's like, is that person qualified? And if you agree that that person's qualified, then, you have to be, teachable and coachable.
Yeah.
You're teachable and willing to change. You have to have a high willingness to learn. You have to have a high willingness to change. And you need to let that person influence those changes and influence your learning. So it's the basics are really all of it, right?
Yeah.
In my when you ask that question, it's kind of like, that's kind of what I think about the basics with KT.
Because once you do it long enough, then you just unconsciously, you just know.
Unconsciously confident, right? Yeah. So yeah.
Just listening to good people, being around the right people, just being around like-minded people, right? Awesome, man. And also, so this one, I already answered one of them. What are some of the things you learned from having a personal mentor? So being able to rally so many people around like an opportunity, is a great skill to have. What are some ways you're able to do that, so well in different areas?
Man, I don't know. I was talking to somebody about this the other day because randomly back in 2020, like Brock Pierce, who's like one of the guys who helped create USDT. He's like a part of that whole operation. I don't even know what his whole role is, but he's very high up in it. I'm pretty sure this guy's like
Tether,
potentially,
right?
yeah, Tether. Yeah,
Okay.
I think he's potentially. I'm pretty sure he's a billionaire. Like, I could be wrong on that, but he's a very wealthy guy. Long story short, he was running for president and he wanted to get on the ballot for Florida. Wow. And I had a friend who was connected with this guy, Nick Spanos. Nick Spanos is a huge early Bitcoin guy. Long story short, they needed 100 people to sign a petition and basically not just sign a petition, but to join a new political party.
So I remember that. I think,
bro, I got 100+ people.
That's funny.
In a matter of a couple of days, because we already had a huge community. But in the matter of a couple of days, I got 100 people to change their political party. People were just like, "Oh yeah, cool, whatever. This is what we're doing, awesome." And I was just like, I don't know. That was hilarious, man. And what's crazy is it was during COVID. I drove up to Tallahassee, and I couldn't get into the government building to submit the form because it was all closed down. So it was I don't know. It was we did all the things that we needed to do, but it was just the we didn't get it done in enough time anyways. They gave us another week, but they asked us to do it so last minute. But we got it done, but then it was a pointless mission for sure. It was crazy, but
it's a testament, right?
Well, the crazy part is, you said, rallying people around things. I just have a knack for it, man. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, man, I have an ability to the amount of times that I've had people make life-changing decisions based off the things
what are some things that you do, I guess, I don't know, are you like emotional?
I think I inspire people, man. You know, I try to connect with people, and you know, I think one thing is that I'm sincere. You know, and I feel like people feel that. You know, I'm never promoting or pushing things that like I don't genuinely believe in. Not everything I've done has worked out and been successful, but when I'm working with a project or a company or I'm really uniting people around something, it's because I believe in that, you know, and like I think people are attracted to people who know where they're going and people who are confident in where they're going. I think that's a rare. I think that's a rare thing for people, and I've always felt confident that I can go the right direction. I can lead the way, and I think that having that confidence has always kind of just attracted people, man. And, it hasn't always. Sometimes I've made massive mistakes in business and in life, in relationships, not, business relationships, personal relationships. But even through all of that, it's important to maintain, a high level of confidence in yourself. And because it's easy to get down on yourself, it's easy to make mistakes and get down on yourself. I think a lot of people do that. I think I've done it before in the past. I think it's a lot harder to move forward after you've made massive errors or you messed things up royally in some capacity. But that's what people are attracted to, man. And so I think, and also I'm just real with people, man. I'm especially I think go back to Legal Shield. I just shared with people what it was actually doing for my life and how what I saw for the future. You got to have a big vision. Without vision, the people perish, right? Mm-hmm. So I've always been good at having a vision of not what things are, but what things can be and what things can turn into. And I'm really good at painting that image for people. I am good at that. I know that when you're asking me that question, it's like, that's what I do, man. It's like I have a massive vision and I'm storytelling. I make people see it in their minds. Yeah. Whatever it is that I'm promoting.
I guess picture that into their story and you just add it together,
Yeah, absolutely. You share relatable stories, have a big vision, be able to articulate that vision, have people be able to see themselves being a part of that vision. That's one thing I learned from Josh too, is if you want to lead high-level people have a high vision for their own life, or they feel like they're going to have a big calling. So you have to have something big enough that people can actually see themselves inside of. So your vision has to be massive. Exactly. It has to be insane. You have to believe bigger sooner. You have to change, and it takes years, man. I mean, I remember hearing these things at 21, 22, 23, thinking that I had expanded my mindset. And then around 27, 28, 29, I'm getting smacked in the face with new lessons and new understandings. And I'm like, man, I thought I knew it back then, but now I'm starting to understand that I really don't even get it now. There's so much more that I don't know than I do know. And that's, so that's.
I mean, I forgot what I was going to say about that, but oh yeah, so you fly around a lot, you make a lot of flights. So I did want to ask you a question. I'm a guy, I don't really like flying too much. I do it, I just go through the motions of it. But how do you go about flying all the time? What are some tips, I guess, or rituals that you like to do, to prepare for a flight or.
For sure. Yeah. I am at 50 flights right now for 2024. I made a goal to go on 100 flights this year. I'm obviously not going to hit 100, but I'll probably hit somewhere around 60 maybe. I'm about to go on flight 51, number 51 on November 1st. I'll be flying back to Dubai. But, obviously for me, I have a unique life where I obviously travel a lot for business, but then also my daughter lives in a different state than me. So even when I'm traveling a lot for personal life as well, right? So I'm out in Dubai, my daughter's here, so obviously now I'm coming back for her. But man, for me, I have the luxury of being able to be a little bit more carefree with my bookings. So I don't really have too many trip tips, because if people want to like travel the most efficiently, the way I do it probably isn't the most efficient. It is for my lifestyle, but for the average person, I don't think it would make a lot of sense. I never book round trips. I always book one ways, which isn't always smart. And a lot of times I'll book like my flights like the day before, or because like I've had a lot of times where things change. And it's like, I booked this flight 4 days ago, but now something changed. So now, like, I always book it the day before or the day of the flight. It's not, and it's more expensive. It's less likely it's good, but it's like that's how I kind of I've done it, just because I like the flexibility of things. But for me, I've just gotten really good at being with my own thoughts, man, and I've practiced that on planes a lot. From Miami to Dubai, it's a 16-hour flight.
You gotta sit still.
No, so when I do fly, I focus on anything that will pass time. Yeah. But one thing I try to be conscious of doing every time is like sitting incredibly straight and proper the whole time. It's a little bit harder, but I like to tighten my core. And I feel like this is just a good use of the time. Yeah. Where I'm like, man, I'm getting I'm straightening my spine, because all the energy flows through your spine. I'm strengthening my core right now, so I'm getting my abs right, so I'll try to sit there like that for as long as possible on the flight. And then eventually I get tired. I'm like, all right, yeah, just chill out.
That's funny. Do you fly like the first class or depends?
It depends. I don't fly first class. I fly business class. Okay. So on Emirates, business class, a lot of what first class looks like on most flights is business class on Emirates. But first class on Emirates is crazy. They have but these flights are ridiculously expensive for no reason. I mean there is a reason. It's awesome. It's lit. But yeah, people are paying 10 to 15,000, one way tickets. Which I'm not there yet, Jeez, man. I do fly business a lot, which is obviously the really, really, in Emirates, it's really nice experience, massive, seat that turns into a bed and giant screens and, really nice meals and unlimited alcohol and all these. It's a really cool,
that's funny. It's like a vacation.
Yeah, dude, it is. It's dope. And I have flown business with them a lot. But I fly economy most of the time. I just thug it out. When you're flying so much, if I were to fly business or first class every time compared to economy, the amount of money I'd be spending annually on flights would just be astronomical. It doesn't make sense. I'm still trying to accumulate and allocate, resources effectively. I want to still, I feel like I've definitely had to come up, in a lot of ways. But I still have so many levels to go. So I try to be effective. I like to just book economy. Sometimes I'll upgrade to business, but the vast majority of the time I just thug it out.
Nice. Yeah, I went to Cabo. I didn't fly first class or anything, but it was cool. Do you do layovers when you go to Dubai or?
No, I always fly straight. That's one thing is I never try to do layovers. I hate layovers. Obviously sometimes.
Get there.
Yeah, I just want to do a direct flight.
Awesome. Well, you did speak of your daughter, so I did want to ask you, I'm sure you'd love to speak about it as well. What makes a good father? You've been a father since you were super young. When I met you, you were already a dad.
I've been a dad for 11 years. My daughter just turned 11.
Wow.
So, I'm 30. Yeah, man, it's crazy. But yeah, I've been since I was 19. It's easy for me to talk on this because my dad was such a good dad. My dad was, I have 12 siblings. So I have, 8 sisters, 4 brothers, all same mom and dad, right? And my dad was just a freaking, superhero, man. This guy was incredible. It still is, incredible. Just has taken care of all of my siblings, provided an amazing life for 13 humans. It's like he was just one of those guys who just always handled business, always took care of stuff. Like he was just a true man's man. So what does it mean to be a good dad? I think it's a tough question to answer. I think there's a lot of things that are a way to be a good dad. Obviously, one of the ways that you can be a great dad is just by being there. And for me to say that is a little ironic because I wish I was with my daughter more. I'm not with my daughter as much as I want to be, especially this year. I have visitational rights. I have joint custody, right? And so I have visitational rights. She lives with her mom, and I see her on a monthly basis because we don't live in the same state. But even this year, there's been a lot of times where I was supposed to have visitations with her, and I just wasn't able to because I'm now living in Dubai. And I literally just went several months without seeing her, and that's tough. That's really hard. And so part of me feels like I'm not being a good dad because I'm focused on different things. But then another part of me is I'm like, man, I want to be there, but I'm truly building something incredible. I feel like I'm building a legacy for my daughter, so that anything and everything she needs can be provided for. So, I think it's both, right? Being a good dad. I think being a good dad is like handling business. I think it's more important for as a dad, I feel like your kid should be proud of you. I feel like that's like, I think being there is important. I try to be there with my daughter as much as possible, but I want to be somebody that she is, looking up to, not just somebody who hangs out with her all the time, sees her all the time, so I'd rather be somebody that my daughter is like, that's my dad, and they're really proud that I'm her dad, or that, of who I am as a person, because I think that would do more good for her as a role model and a person in her life. But I mean, but I also think it's both things, right? So
you still probably communicate with her, like obviously.
Yeah, we FaceTime. Yeah, we FaceTime almost every day. Yeah. We talk often, but we text back and forth. But I wish I was with her in person every single day.
Now she's 11, so what's the difference now? Like, I guess you could say, the transition, mentally, like now that your daughter's grown up, now she's starting to get be a teenager almost.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I just as I think this time frame is just as critical as any other. I think that every phase of a kid's life is very unique and important. And right now, obviously, I have a unique benefit. Obviously, my daughter lives with her mom full time, and her stepdad is military, and so they've moved around a lot. And so obviously, I see my daughter once a month. And when it comes to the hardcore parenting, her mom has just been that person. And just when it comes to, not just the hardcore parenting, but when it comes to I'm there, but I'm not making decisions. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to give her as much information as I can that's helped me in my life. Better myself as a person whenever I'm talking to her, whenever I'm with her. But, we only see each other for a weekend at a time or a week at a time. So it's never really been, I've just never been like a big disciplinary parent where it's like, if I lived with her all the time, I'd be way more like strict on her. But it's like, man, we have such little time together anyways. It's like, oh, am I really going to punish you during our 48 hours together? Like, no. I got you for 2 weeks. Am I really going to spend 2 days fighting with you over something? Like, no, I'm just going to bend over and I'm going to be lenient. I'm not going to fight my kid. I'm not doing this. But it's like, if I was with her, so
it's different when someone's like living with you. It's like, kind of like, I mean, it's not kind of like, but I guess, like a girlfriend, like a girlfriend that you just see, you know, you go to her house, whatever, and then once the girl starts living with you, it's like, all right, now like
it's a lot more serious, man. It's a lot more serious, you know. It's like so. That's, I mean, it's a big difference, you know. It's a unique. It's one of those things where it's like so whenever I see my daughter, I just try to be like superhero, you know, Superman, like, and I just give her as much of my attention as I possibly can. I'm fully present, you know. I take her out to eat. You know, when I'm out there, like I'm not looking at my phone. I don't want her, you know, on her iPad or anything like that. So if I want to be, you know, I got to be an example, and I got to be a role model, and I got to share as much in the short time frames we have together. I have to share as much ideas and concepts and things that have really helped me elevate as I possibly can. And it's really funny that my daughter's always like, I'll tell her stories all the time. And like now she's at the point where she's like, oh, here we go again. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you're going to give me some kind of story about how to do something like this and be a better person. And I'm like, yeah, I am going to give you something like that, you know. And, but I'm proud of that though. Even though she like, you know, she's like, Dad, like, come on, you really going to, you know, bore me with this nonsense? But it's like, yes, I am.
Now she's getting to that teenager. She's like, no, like, but that's funny.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, I mean, obviously your daughter probably makes you tick, right? But what makes you tick? What are some things that you notice like make other people tick?
In which way do you mean the word tick? Because there's
things. I mean, different ways, I guess. Like one way would be, you know, what makes you tick as far as like gonna go like do something, like, you know, taking action.
Yeah.
And then also like some things that you just that bother you, I guess. You could say.
You know, man, you know, I'm motivated right now mostly by never going back to the places I have been in. You know, it's like I feel like I've made it to another side, and I have a long way to go in my journey. But the thing that makes me tick more than like right now, going and working and getting after it, is the idea that if I'm to slow down and get complacent and be happy with what I've done and just like feel like, oh, you know, I could go back. I could fall back to where I was. I don't ever really want to be in a situation or in some of the situations like I've faced over the last, you know, 10 years. I mean, man, we all know it's like in the, you know, starting out in the entrepreneurial world, somebody who's trying to pave their own way, it's not easy. It's not easy. And if you really want to go after it, I mean, not everyone's going to struggle. Some people are going to just shoot right up, you know, like it happens. But the vast majority of people are going to struggle. The 98.9% of people are going to have some type of trial or tribulation or hardship or thing that they have to overcome. And, you know, maybe it's different on each level, but man, the trials and tribulations I went through, I don't ever want to be that broke again in my life.
Yeah.
I just don't ever want to be that. I don't want to be that broke ever again in my life.
I mean, so now part of it, I guess, is like just getting in at the right time, the right people, right opportunity. Because I mean, you have to like get knocked out, I guess, a couple times to be like, okay, now I know the timing and the opportunity, I guess, you know.
Yeah, well, man, you know, I think it's so common for most people to get beat up in business a couple times, you know, that as long as you're learning from your mistakes and you're getting better at everything you're doing, you know, and you stay in the game, you're going to reach a point where you start finding things fall for you, right? You've been around, you know, long enough. You've seen enough. You've made enough mistakes, you know, and as long as you're learning, you start doing the right things. I really want to make the most out of my life, man. I want to make the most out of who I am. I want to reach, you know, my biggest potential as a person, you know, as a human being. I want to achieve everything that I have the capability or potentiality to achieve. I want to get it done.
Is there something that like made you become that way, or you think? Because I mean, when I was a kid, I used to like see my parents fighting about money and, you know, stuff like that, and I was just like, man, like, you know, I just notice like almost everyone's problems were because of money. So I was just like, I don't want my life to be like that. Like, I don't want to fight about money and stuff like that?
I think just one thing that pushed me more than anything else was, the mother of my child. She did basically leave me for another man when my daughter was about 6 months old or so.
That's crazy.
And I was 20 years old, and that broke me. I went through a serious victim mentality, depression, and I thought everything was, up against me. And but I was with personal development and surrounding myself with better people. I eventually came over that, man, and I developed that philosophy, like I was talking about earlier. Like, it's not what happens in your life that determines your life future. It's what you do about what happens that defines you as an individual, right? And that to me was big, and I kind of overcame this terrible place in my life, and I was very motivated to help spark other people's change, because I don't think you can change anybody, but I know I changed myself. Like, I know I went through a real, there's a real difference in who I am over the last 10 years. And I know people can spark that kind of change for themselves. And I wanted to help. I wanted to motivate people to do that. I wanted to inspire people to do that. And one thing I realized is, like, what you have to do is if you're going to do that for other people, you have to become the best version of yourself. You have to become better and better and better. If you want to achieve more, you need to become more. It's if you don't, eventually you'll drop back down to your own level, right? If you want to continue to rise up, you have to have a better understanding.
Yeah,
Life.
I feel like you have to refine yourself. I feel like everybody is meant for success. They just have to it's like that layer of onion, just get deeper and refine their own energy. You know what I'm saying? They don't really change their energy, or just refine it, I guess. But in doing that, you do change. Or you just look different, or you feel different. But I feel like everybody is born with that special something. They just have to find it.
Yeah, I think so as well, man. I think so as well. People need to work on themselves.
But
you need to work on yourself harder than you work on your job.
Exactly. And what are some big decisions or sacrifices you had to make, to get from broke to successful, and then from one success to the other, to where you are now?
Yeah. I've had to make some crazy sacrifices. I could think of so many things. On my 21st birthday, I didn't go out partying or drinking. I threw a home event for a Beamer.
Wow.
My 21st birthday, man.
That's crazy. Just to get people over. You're it's my 21st birthday. You have to come.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I didn't even drink that night. I just, that's because I already had a kid. I was a little more serious. My whole early 20s, I had some great experiences, but I had high level experiences compared to what people were doing in college, man. I elevated myself, especially through the whole Legal Shield thing, pretty quickly. And I think I was making a little bit more money than most 22-year-olds. And, I was experiencing, I felt like a higher, something a little bit better than what was going on in the average college frat. For that, I gave up so much of the normal stuff, man. And there's so many sacrifices I've made. The willingness to change thing is a big part of it. I used to be a big football, baseball guy. I don't watch any of that anymore.
Yeah.
I still love basketball. I used to be every sport, all Sports Center, ESPN. Oh yeah. So
we always hit each other up.
Yeah. Look, man. The Celtics currently the defending world champions. 18-time. 18-time. Champions.
Future part owner of the Celtics here.
Dude, I wish, man. That'd be great. Yeah, somebody was trying to say, man, they're selling majority ownership of the Celtics right now for $6.4 billion. I was like, damn. One day.
I wish one day.
One day. That would be the ultimate goal, I think, for me, owning the Boston Celtics. That would be
good story right there.
That would be fire. I'm a big fan. But yeah, no, it's so many sacrifices, man. When I think about it, it's I gave up so much of the fun stuff or like the average stuff or the stuff that most people do just to like work my butt off. At a young age, I was already, obviously a dad. My daughter lived in, I would spend my last dollar all the time just to travel with my kid. I would put myself in financial difficulties to make sacrifices to be a good dad. I would make sacrifices to be able to build business. I would,
I saw you slept on the floor in the airport.
Yeah,
I saw
man.
you posted that the other day.
Yeah. That was like when my daughter, I used to have to fly across the country every month just to see her. And I would fly her back. So the thing is, I would go from Raleigh to Denver. I would sleep in the Denver airport Thursday night, and then I would pick my daughter up Friday morning, and I would fly her back to Raleigh. And then we would spend Friday night, all day Saturday, and then Sunday afternoon I would fly her back to Colorado. And then I would sleep in the Denver airport again, and then I would fly back home on Monday when I was living in
So then you would fly with her. You had to, right?
Yeah, I brought her back. Yeah,
because she was like.
Because my mom, my mom wanted to see her grandbaby. It was. But yeah, man, I used to do that. So I was doing 2 round trips. Over the course of like the weekend. But it was already expensive. I was 20, 21 years old. I was just trying to figure out life.
Now you're flying from Dubai.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit different now, man. Because it's just like
10 years ago, in 10 years, I'll be flying from Dubai.
I had no idea, man. I never planned on moving to Dubai. That all happened so.
Dubai's like the new spot now.
Yeah, I think so. Man. I think so. I really enjoy it out there.
What's like different? What do you like about it?
One thing is there's just such a different overall culture as far as so many people from all over the world. Obviously Miami is very similar to that as well. But I think Dubai is even a more elevated aspect. There's way more cultures in Dubai than there are in Miami. It's there's obviously a great mix in Miami, but it is also heavy Latin culture, where there's a lot of Latin culture and people from Latin America, all different parts of South America out in Dubai. But there's just so many more people from other parts of the world, like Australia and the UK and all throughout Europe, Russia, Ukraine, all different parts of Asia. So there's a much better, where there's a much bigger mix of people in Dubai. Internationally, which is I think is cool, but the city's just a completely different place, man. They build 24/7. 70% of the cranes in the world are in Dubai.
Damn.
They build 24/7. Like each building is like the most beautiful building like you're gonna find in an average city here in the States.
Crazy.
It's like, oh, look at this building. It's like, oh wow, look at that building. It's like, oh man, the architecture here is insane.
So you live in the city?
I live on the Palm.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I have
Palm things, right?
Yeah, like on the Palm Island. So if you go,
damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, dude, I live.
I used to always see that on the map. Like, damn, I want to live there. That's pretty.
That's where I live, man.
That's funny.
And when you
my
go,
man, Ben Notini. Let's go.
When you go out to the Palm, you got to drive out here, and you go under the tunnel through the Atlantis, and then you got to go all the way to the tip.
So, okay.
Yeah, I got a little beach. I got a condo over there. It's a little beachfront spot, and
we're in Dubai now.
Dude, yeah, come up, man. It's an amazing city.
So, well, I know you got to get going. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate spending some time to get the message out. Help me out, and look forward to another episode in the future once the level up is crazy, right?
For sure, man. For sure, I'm excited to see what you turn this into, and yeah, hopefully, we'll plan for like episode 100 or something. It'll be like the different, episode 101.
Fuck yeah.
And then we'll see the difference between what's happened over the last 100 episodes.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, that was dope.
Oh yeah.